Why have Australia's free-to-air broadcasters finally come to the party with high-def sport? And what can we expect from the streaming giants in 2020? Vertical Hold is proudly sponsored by Casa Systems, taking Australian technology to the global market. Welcome to Vertical Hold, Behind the Tech News, where we talk to Australia's leading technology journalists to get the stories behind the news of the week. I'm Adam Turner, and this week I'm still not joined by Alex Kidman, a man who is on a side quest to eat his body weight in okonomiyaki before he heads home from Tokyo. Alex is running the show next week, so you can probably expect a wall-to-wall Doctor Who extravaganza, but with him out of the way, this week we're talking sports ball. So I'm joined once again by TV Black Box viewer advocate and longtime friend of the show, Steve Mogg. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Sportity sport.
So, yeah, it's a week where too much sport is barely enough.
We need to change our names, Adam. You can be Adzi.
Adzi, yeah.
And I can be Potato.
Potato. All right, I'll have to sell off me baggy green to raise some money for charity.
Good on you, Adzi.
So there's a lot happening in entertainment, but one thing that's sort of tech-related that almost flew under the radar this week is the launch of 7 Mate HD in Australia's major cities. Now, why is this a big deal? Potato?
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Adzi.
Or Spud. I think I have to go with Spud.
Oh, apologies to Spud Carroll. It's big news because it allows 7 to play catch-up. They now, with their main competitor in 9, who have 2 HD free-to-air channels, now 7 will also. The primary reason, however, that 7 have done it is because it's an Olympic year, and we're all feeling very Olympic in the home of 7, and this allows them then to say that when they broadcast using their linear broadcast channels, that you can watch the Olympics in glorious HD on not 1 but 2 channels.
So that's what's happened in the past, not just with the Olympics, but with the footy as well.
Yes.
And the cricket. It might be in high def on one channel in one city, but then they bump something else onto the standard def channel, or you might have to watch other shows on standard def because the sport's in high def. It's been a bit of a mess like that for a few years, hasn't it?
Yeah, if you're an AFL fan in Queensland, you'll have had to watch a lot of your AFL on 7 Mate in glorious standard definition because that's the only way you get to see a lot of the games, that aren't interested in local markets. And absolutely.
And I think the NRL would have been the same in Melbourne. It would have been on the standard secondary channels, yeah.
Until 9 Gem went HD, and that made it available to 9. And of course, right now, if you're a BBL fan on 7, when it crosses, particularly in Queensland, but even with afternoon games, it crosses to the news and those sorts of things, the broadcast on 7 Mate has been in standard def. And now, in fact, today, as of time of recording, glorious high-definition extra channel.
So it's 20 years, I think, since they launched digital television in Australia. And they started off with all this stuff about, we'll have all these different multi-channels and different camera angles and all this stuff.
Interactive TV.
All this stuff that they really weren't interested in because in the end they decided it was easier to run repeats of Gilligan's Island.
That's right.
20 years. I mean, you'll still get out there and find My Favourite Martian and Gilligan's Island in the TV lineup, but why is it taking them so long to actually get their multi-channel strategy right?
Well, that's an assumption straight away, Adam, that they've got it right. I'm not sure that
better than it was before. How could they make it better?
Oh, look, I think that the free-to-air broadcasters, particularly the commercial broadcasters, did themselves a disservice from the get-go. When digital television first became a thing, we have to remember that analog TV still existed. So when they talked about the digital multi-channels, only people with digital antennas and digital TVs or set-top boxes were able to get them right back at the start. So I remember, and this is digging deep into my memory banks, there was 2 different brands of very specific set-top box that Channel 9 supported with their interactive digital TV. So, and I've got one. It was a TAC box.
Yeah.
And you connect it in and it could plug into your analog TV, but it would allow you using the remote to press the red button and, vote on something that they were talking about during the cricket or whatever like that. And because of this, some people had the tech, not everyone did. it meant that people, well, we don't care what's on these other channels. So then when they switched off the analog signal and everyone had to go digital, all of a sudden everybody had all of the channels. And because anybody that held off or didn't, just stayed with their analog TV service right until the end, didn't care, didn't know, and wondered, what are these other channels? I'm not going to watch them. They don't
What the
have
hell,
anything on
Seven
them.
Mate and
Yeah.
Gem and all this
What's
stuff?
10
Yeah,
bold or sorry, 11 as it was back then?
yeah. And then, so I remember that one of the big things that changed that was when 10 moved Neighbours, which was one of their
Yes.
flagship shows, over to 11. So one of
Mm.
these extra channels. So if you wanted to watch one of their biggest shows, you actually had to figure out how to change the channel and watch one of these new secondary channels.
Yeah, and without getting to TV Black Box nerdy podcast ratings talking, it took a hit. Like Neighbours was pulling, roughly speaking, 400 to 500,000 viewers on Channel 10. When they
Yeah.
moved it to 11, as it was then, it started drawing a maximum of about 300,000 viewers a night.
That's
Um,
a big
uh,
hit.
it's a hit enough, but even
Yeah.
it's not even getting that these days.
Yeah.
But of course, they moved it on the premise that, well, it'll be a flagship part of this multi-channel service, but also because it was underperforming on the primary channel. Now they've got an offering running at 6 o'clock weeknights that's barely pulling 150,000 viewers.
So you got to wonder who was the winner there.
Yeah.
So how's this going to work for the Olympics? Because as far as I can tell, this is the first free-to-air, multi-channel, true high-def Olympics we've had
Mm.
in Australia. Last Olympics, the 2016, was Channel 7 as well, and that
Yep.
was the first proper free-to-air multi-channel where they used more than one channel to show different things at the same time. Back in 2012, it was multi-channel, but that was because Nine shared it with Foxtel.
Yes.
Back in 2008, it was multi-channel, but that's because Seven handed some of the sports to SBS.
Yes.
So this is the first time that one free-to-air broadcaster has had two high-def channels, and rather than being just simulcast of each other, you can watch two completely different sports in high def at the same time. Yes?
Yeah. There's some pretty big moves actually made by Seven for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. The first one is no app. If you remember back to 2016, the big feature that they had was, here's the Seven Olympics app.
Yeah.
And you could subscribe and get full access to all of the things in, as good a good a clarity, whether you could get
Yeah.
HD or whatever. But
And Foxtel did the same thing back in 2012.
that's right.
Yeah.
And because they didn't have the full broadcast opportunity, and even their website didn't give you many options for the 2016 Olympics, for 2020, so there's no app, it's all free. And while absolutely they'll be able to run multiple, but certainly two different HD streams in their linear broadcast sense, it is 100% about 7 Plus, their online catch-up service that currently run a number of what they would call channels that are really just streams of content. They're going to use that model for the Olympics so that you can tune in and watch only the gymnastics channel or only the river rafting channel. And so you can just watch specific whole events either live or, of course, on catch up.
But that's all free, right? Because there was talk about them
Yes.
charging for Seven. There was a Seven Mate subscription service or something I heard them talking about last year. Is there any word on that? Are they going to try and get us to cough up money for this?
Yeah, look, there's absolutely no intention for Seven to charge us. Of course, depending on the nature of people's internet deals that they have, it may chew heavily on their download limits, depending on what
Hmm.
they do and how they use it. And there hasn't yet been announced if Seven are going to do any kind of mobile streaming deal with a Telstra or whoever, so
Yeah.
that you could, jump online to Seven Plus and watch it all and streamed for free. I would doubt that'll be the case. But absolutely, it is free from the broadcaster's point of view to the market, and that's really critical.
Yeah. And the same with how they'll at least use the two high def channels. That'll be the same with the footy this year. Seven tells me
Yep.
that in a city that has both both 7 HD and 7 Mate HD, which is the major capitals, but not most of the regional areas,
Yes.
you can be sure that every AFL match will be in HD, regardless on which one of those two channels it runs on. So, what's the story if you live in a regional area? Though they always tend to lag behind on new channels. What's going on there?
Well, it would have been a whole lot easier if a couple of months ago, Channel 7 were able to take control of Prime regional TV. Unfortunately, a couple of shareholders didn't think that was such a great idea
Mm,
and voted against it and used as a voting block, used that to stop Seven's takeover. So Prime still have a broadcast agreement with Seven, but unlike NBN, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Nine, it's just that it's a deal that Seven don't get to dictate and say to Prime, this is how it works. Had that
yeah,
got across the line, mainland Australia regionally just would have been everything that Seven happens regionally. And to be fair, Prime, come the middle of the year, uh, will absolutely want to get the Olympics in front of as many eyes as possible. They'd be crazy
yeah.
not to.
So obviously, the Olympics is the big thing in entertainment this year. They're talking about 4K and 8K broadcasting. Obviously, not in Australia, but it's not the only game in town. What other streaming? What are the other big streaming stories and entertainment stories we're expecting in 2020?
Well, the critical thing is absolutely twofold. One is that the focus on their online services are going to lift. I mean, we've seen that happen gradually over the last couple of years anyway, but bigger than Ben Hur, 7, 9, 10 particularly are going to care more about 7 Plus, 9 Now, and 10 Play because
Yeah,
that gives them better access into the market. And tied into that is the new ratings gathering mechanism. So OzTam still deliver the ratings and will still collect the ratings through a deal that they have with Nielsen. OzTam are the body that do that and are, of course, part owned by all of the television networks, the commercial television networks.
yeah.
But Virtual Oz launches this year very early, and it is giving us more than just an overnight snapshot. They're now talking about the longer term and multi platform view on programming. So, for example, the first episode of MasterChef, when it launches roughly Easter, and my understanding is that VOZ will have launched by then, we'll get in those numbers the overnights. We'll get how many people watched it via streaming, how many people watched it via catch up from 10 Play, and then we'll also see that play out and improve because they'll add in the plus sevens and they'll add in the plus 28, the consolidated numbers for people that recorded it on a PVR and watched it later. And acknowledging people use catch up to watch those services, to watch those shows as well.
Yeah.
So all of those numbers start to roll in to give us the overall picture. Now
But that
that's
can be
going to
rolled
take
into a single rating now in a way that they couldn't do before.
Yes, but it will still take time. And this is going to be the desperately difficult thing for the networks to sell, both to market and to us, the consumer. We are hung on to this idea of give me the overnights. We need to know, how did today perform yesterday? What happened with I'm a Celebrity last night, in that kind of fashion. And while we could say, well, today no one's going to watch that on catch up or it's so small no one cares, but for your event TV or your big moments, absolutely. We want to know who watched it on catch up, how long, what sort of life, and drama. Who is watching that a week later or 3 days later? That kind of thing. And that plays in really significantly to how the chief programmers and the executives within the networks make their decisions about how long shows hang around for. So,
Yeah.
Saturday Night Rove, which unfortunately fell on its butt last year after only 2 episodes, if Virtual Oz had been in place, would that have been a different story? That's a tough one because we don't have access to that data, but I'm going to stick my neck out and say, look, probably.
Yeah. So looking beyond the free to air broadcasters or the various streaming services we've got. So we've just got Apple Plus come along, and we've just got Apple TV Plus, and we've just got Disney Plus come along. Is there anyone else is there any other service that we know for sure is coming to Australia this year?
Oh, well, we don't know, but there's lots of eyes happening on the US as
Yeah.
far as new services that have launched or are about to launch. So we know HBO Now has landed in the US. This is replacing HBO Max as their streaming service. Notice how HBO Now sounds an awful lot like Foxtel Now.
It
Hmm.
does. So what's the difference between HBO Now and HBO Max?
There is some content difference, which is the significant part. There is a whole bunch
Yeah.
of shows that HBO are delivering to HBO Now exclusively that are not
So
going
a
to
bit
HBO
like
Max.
Disney Plus has stuff like The Mandalorian that's
Mm.
not anywhere else. HBO Plus Max now. Which one was I've already confused
Now,
myself. Which HBO now will have HBO stuff that won't be on Foxtel, I guess.
well, it might be. Here's the differential. So
Yeah,
if you think about HBO Now like Foxtel Now, I can watch the live channel. So HBO is being broadcast, um, as a cable channel in the
like a
US.
live simulcast of the
Yes,
cable channel. Yeah,
or you can then add in all of the other simultaneous, like catch up, I guess, ostensibly, or first run content like a Stana and Netflix,
yeah,
made for that platform that you can only watch on HBO Max. Now, because of HBO and Foxtel's relationship, if Foxtel go, hey, that show we think would work really well, we'd like to run it in Australia, whatever money changes hands and that happens, because in Australia, of course, Foxtel are the exclusive partners with HBO. So the only way to get HBO content in Australia in the usual sense is that
yes.
you have to subscribe to
The
Foxtel.
only legit way. Yeah,
Well, I mean, I don't want to get into the big argument over the legitimacy of using a VPN and all of that sort of stuff. Just that if you wanted to subscribe to the service in Australia, the only
yeah.
way to get it is via a Foxtel subscription and just piecemeal. So you won't subscribe as yet to HBO Now in Australia and get all of its content because it's not allowed.
Could you see that happening in the foreseeable future? Will HBO get to the point where they say we can cut out Foxtel and go direct in Australia, or we can somehow cut a deal where we're still on Foxtel and we go direct in Australia with our own app?
Uh, wow. The short answer is yes, but there's a few caveats on that, right? The amount of money that Foxtel pay HBO is very private and very big. Like
Mm,
there's a sizable amount of coin that changes hands so that Foxtel are the exclusive and only way to see HBO content here. If HBO were to go, screw you guys, we're launching HBO now in parallel, um, there would have to be, I'd expect, part of their agreement would have to be either paid out or it would have expired
yeah,
because that Foxtel have that exclusively as well. Um, if they were to do that, that would significantly diminish the value of the contract. So Foxtel aren't going to pay what they're paying now to HBO if they do that.
yeah,
Um, the other angle will be that HBO's dollar value, the price of the contract for Foxtel to remain exclusive in Australia, is just going to go up and up and up. And with Foxtel, not hemorrhaging, but struggling to keep its head above financial sort of waters, um, they can only keep paying insane amounts of money to people like HBO for so long. So at some point, either HBO will price itself out of the market in that relationship with Foxtel, or Foxtel will just throw their hands in the air and say, we can't afford this. And HBO will go, no worries. Few clicks, roll up a server in Australia. Here's HBO now.
yeah. Now, this other thing that could happen with sport, though, as well, because apart from the likes of Game of Thrones, HBO
Mm,
content, the other big Foxtel thing is, all your live AFL matches.
yes,
Now, again, apart from the fact that a shed load of money has exchanged hands,
yes.
what's stopping the AFL going direct?
Yeah, well, right now, it's a shed load of money.
Yeah,
The deal that they have for AFL with Foxtel 7 and I think it's Telstra, um, and for the NRL with 9 and Foxtel, it's just like one was $1.1 billion dollars and the other was
yeah,
like 900 million, some insane money, Adam. Those contracts are due up in the next couple of years. I would suspect that if the AFL aren't angling for this already, they absolutely should be. Similar to Major League Baseball or NFL or NHL in the US, that all of a sudden they have the capacity to be able to sell specific nights worth of games to channels and negotiate in that regard and offer to the market a streaming. Here you can watch any and every game. Sign up for your AFL pass and do
mm,
it digitally like that. AFL already have their own media team that are writing content and sending out releases and writing articles that end up in mainstream media. They are to the large part like the supercars are filming. So when the deal is done for supercars and I think AFL, I could be wrong on this one. The AFL are actually filming the product
yeah,
and being picked up by their partners who put their commentators on screen and do all that sort of stuff, and off they go. But the game itself is filmed and owned by the code, and in that regard, it gives them heaps more leverage around how they use those assets.
yeah. And if HBO and AFL went direct at the same time,
Oh,
Foxtel would be
mate.
totally up shit creek, wouldn't they?
Look, if something like the AFL, even the NRL, and HBO did decide to become available to consumers in Australia via methods not involving Foxtel, I honestly couldn't see how it could survive, given
Mm.
the value that they bring into that market. Now, there's lots on Foxtel. I totally get that. However, we know that the bulk of their business ties into premium drama and ties into their live sport, and that is huge business, or a huge portion of their business. And just as an aside, we didn't even start to talk about Peacock, which is NBC's streaming service. We didn't talk about Hulu, now that it's owned by Disney, and whether they're going to start to make overtures to move into Australia or anything.
So how there's got to be a line here somewhere, and I'll be interested to see if it happens here first or if it happens in the
Mm.
US first. But you can only have so many of these damn things,
Oh, we've
and
already got 10.
people only pay so much for these damn things. At
Absolutely.
what point? I mean, I know we've already seen, Presto, rest in pieces, didn't last it, but that was because it was a half-hearted. Like
Yes.
Foxtel were into it, but not into. Presto didn't fall over just because of the competition. It
No.
fell over because the people who were running it weren't really that into it.
Yeah.
But that aside, we're now waiting to see who is the next big victim of the streaming wars. Where
Oh.
in America, in the US, do you think that 2020 might be the year that we see one of the big ones fall, or how's this going to play out?
Well, I think if we talk about in that 10, that also includes, I've included Foxtel Now as a service and
Yeah,
KO as a service in those. Um, if we just think about them in their standard offering, so Amazon Prime has a global business behind it, it's not going to fall over.
yeah,
Netflix, for all of the discussion around its market value and the rest of it, is a global business. It's in every country bar three. It's not going to fall over. Not in a hurry.
yeah.
Um, Stan is now a part of the largest media organisation in Australia. And, Mike Sneesby is the guy in charge of Stan, and his team are doing a great job, signing content and making it be a real stand up, standalone streaming service in Australia. It's not going to fall over in the next 12 months. There are niche services like Hayu, which is NBC Universal's come and get all of your reality TV, your Kardashians and your Real Housewives stuff streamed through us. That's niche, but it doesn't need to, like, even if it's only got, let's be conservative, even if it's only got 500,000 subscribers in Australia, and I don't even know if it's got that, its major market is the US, and offering it here is a nice little and then.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the smaller ones that are going to struggle. I'm thinking like Acorn TV. Foxtel Now is not now anymore. It's Foxtel Play again. Sorry, Foxtel Plays.
Hang on, what date is it? Let me just
Oh,
check in. Yeah,
wow. And Foxtel is still talking about too a KO style service for just premium drama.
yeah,
So what happens to your Foxtel Play service if that opens up? I know lots of friends who have got a KO subscription that no longer have an IQ4 or don't have an IQ4. Have never had the traditional Foxtel. I know lots of people that would champ at the bit for a KO style premium drama service. I personally love my Foxtel Play subscription, and it does everything I need it to do. Gives me all of the things in all of the places, and it's great now that they made it work with AirPlay. Um,
mm,
However, that comes at the cost of your traditional satellite infrastructure. It won't surprise me if the first cut for Foxtel is that they do away with that and move to internet only at some point. But Foxtel will hang
yeah.
around.
That'd still be a few years away though,
Yes,
because they're having to invest a lot because they've everyone's got to get off cable.
yes,
If you're a Foxtel customer and you're on cable, you've got maybe 2 years, maybe not even that, and you will be moved to satellite
yes,
because the cable now belongs to NBN
yes,
and it's being used for a broadband. So Foxtel's working hard to move all of their customers onto satellite,
yes.
which means they've got to spend the money to put the satellite dishes on the roof. They've got to spend the money to keep the bird in the sky, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't invest all that and then turn around the next day and say, oh, screw it, we're putting everybody on the internet. So
No.
it's going to take a few years.
So, and just to add to the top of that, Disney is not exactly a small company. Disney Plus isn't going anywhere.
Mm,
Apple isn't a small company, so Apple TV Plus isn't going anywhere. And you have to also lean on the fact that the Emmys aren't until later in the year, but the Golden Globes, Morning Wars, their big flagship show, was nominated for 3 Golden Globe Awards in the
yeah.
TV section. that shows that the industry is watching, and that's why Tim Cook was at the Golden Globes and got that great slap in the face from Ricky Gervais. They were all there. So it's not going anywhere. As much as it's a smaller library, it's a very targeted library. It's such a tough play. However, this is the thing: not everybody has to have everything. Like the nature of all of these services is that they are a la carte. You get to say this month we're signing up for Netflix. Next month we're signing up for Stan. The one after we're signing up for Foxtel Now. And because the tradition now for Australians particularly is to binge whole series in a weekend or over a few nights, I know a bunch of people that are already doing that and say, right, this month I've got Netflix. What do I need to watch? Witcher. I need to watch Marriage Story. I need to watch this. I need to watch this. Right, I've done that. Now I'm on Stan. What do I need to catch up on or watch here? Right, well, Better Call Saul has started, or Billions is back, or all of these sorts of things. RuPaul's Drag Race, and people can just jump between them with no penalty.
I just don't know if people can be bothered doing that. Are we going to see that, or are we going to be more like, I've got Netflix, my brother's got Stan, and my brother-in-law's got Amazon, and we all swap our
I
login?
couldn't possibly suggest that would be the mechanism that's used, Adam. However, that would be one very crafty way to get around it.
I think we'll see more, because I think the harder you make it for people to do the right thing, the more likely they are to go back and do the wrong thing. And when it was a point where it looked like, and this was never actually the case, but the way it looked was that give Netflix $10 a month and you can watch everything you'd ever want. Now, it
Yes.
was never actually going to be that, but that's the picture they kind of painted.
Yep.
And I think most people went, yeah, fine, take my money, no worries. And then the second one comes along and they go, yeah, maybe. But it gets to the point where suddenly you're thinking, hang on, how does BitTorrent work again? Because I'm not giving
Yeah.
Amazon $8 a month just because I want to watch Picard,
Well, which in Australia you have to get from Amazon. It's on
Yeah,
CBS
exactly.
All Access in the US, and that for me is a gut wrenching surprise because 10 All Access would have fallen over backwards to have it here, and it would have been a great sign up option to get a whole bunch of people to sign up for a service that they are not signed up for.
For sure. So how is 10 All Access doing? It's the one that you never hear about.
For good reason.
Yeah.
It's doing okay. They're pumping some original content that is CBS All Access content, original content here into Australia. The problem is that it's not necessarily, they haven't come up with their Mandalorian or their Game of Thrones or their House of Cards. They haven't come up with that. So no one has a reason to sign up for 10 All Access in Australia yet, particularly when they're going to throw Star Trek Picard on Amazon Prime Video in Australia.
They've got to do better than The Mandalorian. Now, I'm not very popular on Twitter for saying this, but I can't hold my tongue for any longer. The Mandalorian was not that great. The special effects, whatever, were fantastic, but the storytelling was appalling. When you can see, look how good Rebels was, and even better, look how good Clone Wars was. They can tell a good Star Wars story. The Mandalorian was a finger painting in comparison. Is it just me? Or did you sort of pick up on a bit of that as well?
This conversation is over.
That's it. I found his breaking point.
Look, I'm a desperate, overly optimistic Star Wars fan. So I'm an Episode 8 apologist. I really liked Episode 8.
Oh, that was the worst of the bunch, man.
See, here we go.
Here we go.
I really loved Rise of Skywalker, and I appreciate that both of those films have their failures, but I really like them as the stories and how they're delivered. I really liked The Mandalorian for same kind of reasons, and I'm dirt keen for season 2 when it comes in spring our time, later in 2020. Not everybody likes it. Not everybody has to like it. However, you will agree with me that we are very much, both of us at least, looking forward to the final season of the Clone Wars. Surprise, coming in about a month and a half to Disney+.
Yeah, that's massive, because I thought they sort of finished telling that story, so it will be interesting to see where that one goes.
Well, that was the impression that we got. And what I understand from what's coming is that they kind of had, but there's a whole bunch of loose ends that they went, and now we can tie this like this.
So Star Wars is probably one of the best examples you'd find in modern entertainment at the moment of just strip mining a franchise, finding every little hang on. There's 5 minutes in that we didn't see in that movie that happened around the corner. Let's turn that into a series. I've even because I've been looking through the Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus, and there is Star Wars Forces of Destiny, I think it's called, and it's little 3-minute episodes
Yes.
where they've gone back through the entire thing. They've gone through all 9 movies and Rebels and Clone Wars and I think Rogue One and all the
Mhm.
others, and just showing you like one scene that they've just made up. How far can it go? And do you think that Disney will start applying that to all the other models as well? Do you think we'll start to see Iron Man spin-offs of that thing that happened when that day Iron Man was on holidays and he did that thing that you didn't get to see in the movie? Like, how far can they stretch this?
It is so great, not far enough. And did you know? Oh, you would know, of course, that Disney Plus are delivering us 3 Marvel TV series made for
3
Disney
Marvel
Plus.
TVs.
Yeah.
But what are they about though?
There's the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's WandaVision,
Oh, I
which
might
is
have heard about that
animated,
one.
and the
Yeah.
Loki TV series.
Oh, yeah, these have been kicking around for a while, haven't they?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
well,
they were
hopefully they didn't get the
planned.
writers of The Mandalorian.
They were planned. Well, Kevin Feige is in charge of all of them, so you know that they're going to
Okay,
fit into
so
that
we're in
Marvel
good hands.
Universe stuff.
Yeah.
I don't like the way you're talking, right? John Favreau, who created The Mandalorian and show ran the bulk of the first season, is the man that made the Marvel Universe what it is, thanks to his efforts with Iron Man. Don't be like that, Adam.
Everyone's got to have one dud, and I think The Mandalorian might be his.
I reckon you have spoken far too soon, and we will see glory come when season 2 lands, and it will just go, wow, this is the season that we needed to have.
All Baby Yoda, all
All
the
the
time.
time.
Well, that about wraps it up for yet another episode of Vertical Hold. Thanks to Steve for joining. Sorry, thanks to Potato for joining us on the show again.
Sporty McSports face.
Yes. And Potato, if people want to catch up with your work, where can they find you?
You can find me at Potato Mulk on Twitter. And of course, I'm the viewer's advocate for tvpotato.com.au on the internet.
And of course, if you want to catch up with us on Twitter, we're at Vertical Hold AU or you can find us on the Vertical Hold Facebook page. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for all your shout outs, your feedback, your reviews. Keep them coming. Alex is in the hot seat next week, so good luck. Vertical Hold is proudly sponsored by Casa Systems, taking Australian technology to the global market.
Edsy and Lexi.
All right, that's a good place to stop.